Hey, if you've ever been labeled by anybody as bipolar or mentally ill, then this video is for you. If you have um, not been labeled with those, if you have not been labeled with those particular labels, but other labels that were disempowering, the point of this video will still be totally applicable to you. And if you happen to be the well-intended person on the other side of the equation, where you love someone a lot and you're like, I'm just gonna call it as I see it. You have a diagnosis, you're bipolar, you're mentally ill. That's who you are. That's just the truth. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it, you know? You have great intentions and you love the person or something like that, but someone you love has been diagnosed with mental illness or bipolar or something, then this video will also probably be useful for you, but in a different sort of way. I'm practicing not even thinking about what I'm saying and just literally speaking to you from some conscious awareness down in my gut somewhere, down in my body somewhere. So we'll see what comes out. I have no idea what I'm going to say or how it's going to sound, but I'll tell you my story, a little bit of it, while protecting the guilty. While protecting the innocent. I'm practicing releasing all judgment of myself and others, so I really don't see anyone guilty. I might be weird, but that's just where I'm at. So I was labeled as mentally ill, bipolar, and I made the choice to buy into that label. No one's fault. I was demonstrating symptoms of it, you know. I go into the doctor and they say, well, do you sometimes feel really up and sometimes feel really down? And I'm like, yeah. Doesn't everybody? They asked me like 8 questions. They didn't do any testing, any blood tests or anything. And they asked me these questions like, you sometimes notice that? And it's just like, by their definition, I would think maybe 80% of people will go through some phase or chapter of their life where they could be diagnosed with bipolar. So I don't personally know if the modern medicine, or at least I don't even think that like a general doctor or like a lot of the people who went through college for their medicine training, I don't even necessarily think that that's modern medicine. I think that that's probably outdated versions of modern medicine, and I have no idea the agendas of the people who fund those colleges and how that whole thing works. I don't personally prefer that method. I do think there is such thing as modern medicine, but I think the cutting edge modern medicine probably flies in the face of what a licensed doctor might say. I believe the cutting edge modern medicine would probably be stuff more like Dr. Joe Dispenza, quantum physics, the type of stuff that you would read in Tony Robbins' new book, Life Force, or some of these people who they're not even widely accepted by the mainstream yet. A lot of these practitioners of people who understand vibrational frequency and the law of attraction and the law of creation within the quantum field, that to me seems more like modern medicine. But nevertheless, if you've been labeled with bipolar, well, I got labeled with bipolar, and what really happened, what I noticed, is I had this unresolved, unconscious insecurity and shame around it. And so when I would get told that, I would have this defensiveness that would come up. What was interesting is that showed up to them, the people labeling me as bipolar, as just more evidence that I have bipolar. And they're not even wrong. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know. I'm saying I am the one responsible for the unprocessed, unseen, unconscious shame in my body, the belief in my body, oh, there's something wrong with me. And I took on the label. They helped me by putting that label onto me, and then I made the choice to accept it. And when I accepted it into my reality, I believe I costed myself dearly when I made that choice. I costed myself a lot of time away from my kids, a lot of unnecessary breakdowns, communication breakdowns, and lack of being able to make the mother of my children feel safe. I costed myself just really damaged relationships with people who I love, like both of the grandparents of my children on both sides. And when I took on that label and I started believing it, I started showing up more that way. So I would notice more. I'd go through these highs and lows, like, oh yeah, that means there's something wrong with me. Well, guess what? What if it doesn't mean that? And I recently had a conversation with Lion, my coach, where I decided a new story that I'm taking on, which is like, I've been blessed. If you have been labeled with bipolar, then it's very possible that we've been blessed with a very uniquely gifted mind. One of the doctors, and I've seen tons of doctors, all different kinds, and I've invested so much money and time into bettering myself. I'm so grateful for all the growth that's come and the awareness that's come. And I'm gonna run upstairs and just really quickly plug in my phone just in case it's about to die. And I'm getting texts like crazy right now. I'm just gonna run up here and plug this thing in. But one of the doctors said, you might have a higher than average IQ. I like that guy. See, that I like. Now, the ego definitely likes to see the good in ourselves, and it doesn't like to see the darkness in ourselves. And so, but nevertheless, I was having a conversation with my coach, Lion. The guy is amazing. He ain't cheap, but he's amazing. And luckily I was able to create an agreement with him that didn't require me to, like, the commitment that I had to invest is different than dollars, which is really nice, because then that frees up money to be able to give to the mother of my kids, which is awesome. So, but he helped me reframe it and realize, oh, it's a story. And I was like, well, they put that story on me. I was like, no, you believed that story. They might have done whatever they did, and they were all doing the best they could with what they had, but whose choice is it to take on that story? And I realized when someone puts a label on us, if we buy into it, we'll just show right up into that label. If we label somebody a toxic, lying cheater, then in our reality, they're going to show up like that. Our mind is going to continually find proof and evidence for how it's true because we believe it. But if we let go of that and say, oh, they made mistakes, and man, who doesn't make mistakes? And there's so much growth and learning that comes from those mistakes, but that's not who they are as a person. Who they are is this, this, and this, and they're getting better, and they're giving me opportunities to surrender. Then that's the reality that we get to live into. And it's so powerful how our words are spells, and they're so powerful. And the more integrity we have with our word, the more powerful our word is. And so I'm really excited and grateful that I get to be living this way of living. I call it the Key Player's Way, and it's not my own. I've taken from all of the cool things I've learned from just amazing religions on the planet and on the earth, and amazing technologies from all different sources, and kind of put it together in my own unique way and mixed it in with my natural talents and gifts around music and stuff, and put it together in this really unique way that allows for a really fun way to live and a really powerful way to live. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm less focused on like preaching about it and teaching about it, although I definitely, anyone who listens to me or who's close to me in my life will probably pick up little things here and there, because it can't not come out, because it's just part of who I am at this point. And yet I'm just more focused on just living it with more congruence and more integrity. And it's really, really fun. And I'm really, really grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the challenges, the problems that we sometimes label them as problems. I think a better word, honestly, is like puzzles. The puzzles that have been presented to me and the puzzle pieces that have been presented to me in life, and many of them are from choices I made, you know. But nevertheless, the universe has presented us all with all these puzzle pieces, and we get to put the pieces together. And that's the game. If we want to look at life through the context of the game of life. I'm not saying it has to be viewed as a game. I mentioned that to one friend of mine, and she was like, oh, is that what you think this is? You think life is just this big game? I'm like, as a possibility, we could look at it through the context of a game if we choose to. We don't have to. I'm not saying that's the only way. But yes, if we look at it as through that context, it can be a little more fun. The context is decisive. The context decides. So it's not the content of the thing, it's the frame around it that actually is going to have more impact on the experience of what that is. So let's see. If I get back out of my head and I go back into my body and let the words come freely from there, then what it would sound like is grateful for all the growth, grateful for my fun roommate in the next room over, having so much fun on his games. He's so cool. I'm grateful that I get to be a co-parent to the absolute best co-parent on the planet and the best mom to our kids that I could have ever asked for. I'm grateful I have the best mom that I could have ever asked for. I'm grateful for my the grandparents on both sides of my kids being the very best grandparents that we ever could have asked for, and the best like support system that our family could have had. I'm not saying that everybody's perfect. Like in a certain sense, nobody's perfect, and in a certain sense, we're all perfect because we're all acting and interacting with life perfectly to how the situation occurs for us, right? Our actions and our behavior are correlated to the way the situation occurs to us in each moment, given the level of awareness we have and the way in which the situation shows up for us. And so we're in a dance with reality based on how it occurs to us all, and it's perfect in that sense. And in another sense, you know, we could all do better in certain ways. And so if I say, you know, that I'm so grateful that the mother of my children, I'm so grateful for all the ways that she honors her word. And then, you know, if someone felt insecure about it, they could say, oh, you're trying to manipulate her because you're now you're finally the one honoring your word and your covenants. And now you're trying to rub it in her face that she's not. I'm not saying any of that. I don't even think she's not. I wouldn't even want to assume that. I'm saying we're all not keeping our word perfectly. And I'm not talking about the ways we're not. I'm putting my focus and attention on all the ways that we are, all the ways that she is, all the ways that the people who we love are doing it. And I'm putting more attention and appreciation on those, trusting that the ways that we're not, maybe no one even knows those but our own selves. And we're probably more hard on ourselves than anybody else is on us. And so I'm trusting that those ways that we're not will just kind of let go and fall off as we keep our focus on celebrating and appreciating the areas that we are. And so I'm allowing my own personal shame to just be let go of and what's the word? Released. And I'm putting my attention on the ways that I am honoring my word and keeping my word, and the ways I am getting better at it, and how it feels fantastic to do that. And therefore, anyone around me, anyone in my world, has me putting my focus on the ways that they are doing great as well. And so if they have an insecurity about where they're not, then that's on them. And it's not my intention to trigger that. I don't really want to trigger that. I don't think it helps anyone if I trigger that. And yet I kind of have to know that, like, hey, guess what? I don't say she hurt me. She made me feel hurt. She's the source of my hurting. I wouldn't want to talk like that. If I ever do, which, and I'm not perfect, so, but if I ever do, then I hope that my own emotional guidance system will kick in and produce the feeling of pain, which will then hopefully wake me up and help me realize, dude, you're telling a victim story. You're creating yourself as a victim right there in your language. And so I wouldn't want to say, she hurt me, she made me feel hurt. That doesn't serve anybody. That puts the power outside of myself where it can never be. And what is more powerful, at least for me in my perspective, would be to say, yeah, it's true, she did this certain action and that action did stimulate my hurt. That might be true. And I, at least when I do it like that, I own my hurt. My hurt, the source of my hurting doesn't come from out there or them or anyone else. The source of my own hurting comes from my own stories about whatever they did and how those actions relate to my own unmet need. So the source of my hurt is maybe I have a need for respect, and that need is not being met when they do that action. But they didn't cause me to feel hurt. My unmet need caused me to feel hurt. In that way, two things I accomplished. A, I'm keeping the conversation around feelings and needs, which we all have different opinions and assessments and diagnosis and judgments and viewpoints and all these things. But as by virtue of being human, we all have the same feelings and needs. So in that sense, I'm creating unity and connection and mutual understanding by keeping the conversation around my feelings and my needs, distinguishing those. But also, I'm hopefully not triggering them by saying, you caused me to feel this way, you hurt me, you made me feel jealous, you made me do this. No, I'm hopefully not triggering them by saying, it's not you, you didn't do anything wrong, you did the best you could. And when you do this thing, I do feel hurt or jealous or angry or whatever. And the reason I feel that way is because I have this need for clarity and communication and respect. And then I could even make a request. Would you be willing to, or would it be okay, or could we agree on this, or would it work for you to be on time when you say you're going to do this, or would it work for you to call me when there's a breakdown? Would it work for you to open the lines of communication when we have some misunderstanding? You know, I can make a clear request. And what's beautiful, and I learned this from Marshall Rosenberg, what's beautiful is we make requests and they don't have to do the request. I have a need for this and this and this, but it doesn't have to be met by you. I just request that you would do that, but I want you to do as I've requested, only if you can do so with the joy of a little child feeding a hungry duck. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't do it with that energy of genuinely wanting to meet that need, then I ask that you wait to do as I've requested until you can do it with that energy. And if you can't and you never can, then I request that you don't do it. And because I don't want someone to put themselves out to do a request of mine to meet a need, I want them to do it if it genuinely is something that they want to do. Otherwise, there's 7 billion on the people on the planet, and my needs are not your responsibility. It's my own responsibility to have my needs met, and I can go ask other people to meet those needs, and there are other people who happily would. And so that takes that pressure off of them. And so these are concepts that I'm really happy that I've learned, and really proud of myself for having invested in myself so much to be able to learn and practice, and I'm getting better and better at it, and it really does feel fantastic. The biggest motivator for my investing in my own personal development for so many years is really the freedom and the abundance in the lives of my kids and anyone who's really close to me, my kids, my clients, my friends, my family, and ultimately anybody who comes into my world. And so you know, if you've been labeled as something disempowering by somebody, it's not necessarily, you don't have to buy into it. But if they labeled you as that and then you felt insecure and defensive, then they just gave you a really great gift because they exposed an area where you subconsciously believe them. If they called you a frog, that wouldn't trigger you one bit. But if they called you bipolar and it triggered you, if they called you mentally ill and it triggered you, then there's a piece of yourself that obviously believes that. Then you wouldn't have been aware of it had they not triggered that and pointed that out and found that little chink in your armor, that little hole where you are triggerable. And so that's why we get to be so grateful for the people in our lives who bring us challenges or problems or communication breakdowns. I used to have a vendetta against against the grandma of my kids, one of the most amazing humans that I know. And it was because she was so good. She was so effective at helping me find my own insecurities, and if she said, Parker, you're not being a man. And if I knew full well that I was showing up as a man, then I wouldn't have gotten defensive and shut down and seen her as this enemy. I wouldn't have done that at all. I would have been right there and able to stay present. I would have said, I would have thought to myself, she's going through something. She just maybe needs someone just to hold space and listen. What's going on? And I might not have said anything, but I just would have been able to hold that presence and just been like, tell me more. Like, what are you feeling? What do you need? And I would have been listening for her, how she's feeling and what she's needing, instead of, don't say that about me. I am a man, right? So it was never her fault at all. She never did anything wrong. At least not in my world. She was showing up perfect to how the situation occurred for her. And that's true of every single person, because we're all projections and reflections of each other. So if someone's reflecting back to you something that you don't like and it's triggering you, you get to have the power. Well, you have the choice to have the power, as much power as we all have the choice to have as much power as we're willing to own responsibility for having. So I'm not here to cast blame or judgment or fault, but how empowering is it when we realize that we are the ones responsible? Then we have all the power. We are creating our world. The world as it occurs to us, and even though we're all on the same planet, there's 7 billion different worlds, because it's the world as it occurs to that individual through their own mind, which is so unique. You think our faces and our bodies look different and our fingerprints are different? That pales in comparison to how different the world occurs to us based on our own unique experience. You're the only single person on the planet who had every single experience that you had exactly the way that you had it. And you're the only one who ever will. And that's what they mean when they say, be yourself. You are the star of your own movie. You are the rock star in your own story. You are the star of your own movie. Move through the world with that realization and watch where it's true. There's no one else who had your same experiences and who sees the world as the way you do. So how powerful is it to speak up, own your voice, own your feelings and needs, own responsibility, and own all the power for everything that you're creating? And I'm not giving you this as some sort of advice. This is what I'm telling myself. This is what I'm practicing. And I can get better and better at it. It's a mountain without a top. We're always going to keep getting better and better at this. But it's true. It's true. It's true like a possibility. It's not true like it's the capital T truth. I don't need to get a phone call from my friend saying, you're saying this stuff that's not true. I'm not saying it's the truth, because it might disagree with your dogmatic religious belief system or faith system or whatever. I'm saying as a possibility. Try it on if you want. It's like what Steve Hardison told me. Like, dude, if you were hungry and I gave you a pizza and it had anchovies and you didn't love anchovies, that doesn't mean you have to just totally throw the whole pizza out. You could just pick off the anchovies and take whatever parts of it that you like. Same with this. So I don't need to get a phone call from, and if you do want to call me and chew me out saying you're not believing in the beliefs of the church. Look, I got an appointment with my bishop tomorrow, and I'm not super excited about the feeling that I'll probably feel when I own up to where I'm out of integrity on certain pieces of the covenants that I've made, where I'm on the covenant path, but then not keeping my word, but I'm still honoring my word. And in that sense, I can still maintain my integrity as long as I acknowledge the impact of the out of integrity behavior acknowledge my responsibility of it, and acknowledge the mess that it caused, and then do my best to clean up the mess, I can still maintain my integrity and still have power in my word, and then create a new agreement on what can be counted on or not. And as I realize that and prepare for that meeting, it's been really, really great, like, to see the world through this even more evolved version of reality, and even more truth and light and like clarity and just simplicity. And it just keeps coming back to me, this feeling of, man, I'm so grateful that I've invested so much in myself and my time and my money and my effort. And I'm so grateful because I've been committed to being the most powerful version of myself for a long time. This isn't something new. And for a while there, I was buying into it when people would say, you took that money that you could have invested, given to your kids, and you went and spent it on this seminar or this coach or this training program. And part of me started thinking, oh man, what's wrong with me? Why would I do it? I know why I did it. I know why I did it, and I'm glad that I did it. Maybe you would have done something different, and that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong either. I know why I did it. I did it so I could ultimately have the highest, longest term happiness for my kids and for their mom and for myself and for our families and for our friends and for everybody. And so, it is what it is. And I'm grateful for myself. I'm not going to lose sight of why I did it. And I'm not going to buy into it when someone says, you did it because you're selfish. No, that's not why I did it. I did it because I was willing to go walk a path that was not so conventional, that was not so easy, to expose the parts of myself where I'm giving up my power so that I could ultimately serve and help and make a bigger impact on the planet for not only my family, but any family around, anyone who's even connected to us. And so these are just my thoughts for the day. If you've been labeled as bipolar or diagnosed with bipolar, you have a very unique gift and a very unique mind. That's probably why you're so good with music. That's probably why you're so good with your art. And so don't think there's anything wrong with you. Yes, there are tools that can help bring awareness to the feelings that are going on and help you keep ownership of it and bring awareness to those needs not met or unmet. And when you do that, all the breakdowns that got created in your life, those can all be converted into breakthroughs. Stay on the path. Keep working the tools. You're doing great. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And while things may not look totally clear yet, I promise you're right where you're supposed to be. Stay believing in yourself. Don't buy into the stories. Don't take on the shame. If someone shames you and it triggers you, thank them for exposing the shame, and then go back in within yourself, use the tools, bring it up, heal it, emote it, experience it, and then that's going to give you that aha that you needed, and keep taking action in the direction of your dreams, because you're going to get there. You are going to get there, and you're on your way right now. That's my message to all you. And for anybody else who's just watching, maybe you don't have any of this. Maybe this isn't resonating with you. Thanks for watching to the end, because this was a long one. All right, guys. I will talk to you soon. Peace. Power. All right. Much love. Always. But only always. All right, bye.